please join me in welcoming Dr. Catherine Gottlieb.
I love this podium. It's just made for me. You know that, right? You could see over the top. Anyway, this is a really wonderful time to get together. I really need to express my thanks to the governor and to Cindy and Bruce for inviting Southcentral Foundation to participate in the signing of this important law. I want to pause before I introduce the governor. I am going to be introducing him, but I need to really applaud Cindy and Butch for their courage, for their tenacity, for their strength, and for their advocacy around violence, dating violence, and being the people, the couple that would be willing to put the face to tragedy and share with their heart and their story. I want to echo what our dancers said for this strong advocacy and the law that they have fought for, and with the governor's help, have been able to have our young people be more educated around violence, around dating violence, around what happens and could potentially happen in our families. And also, I just want you to know that Cindy and Butch came and have a conversation with us at Southcentral Foundation as Alaska Native representative of our population of 65,000 people we serve. And their emphasis was, you know what? This is not just an Alaska Native issue. It's not just an Indian issue. It is all people's potential problem. If we don't address it now, let's do it statewide. Let's do it as united people. Let's do it together. And I just want to applaud you, Cindy and Bruce, and I know that you don't want the applause, you don't want the praise, that's not what you're here for, but I just can't help but say thank you again for the strength of your advocacy and all the tears that have been shed and have been caught, and I know they've been caught by God. So I just want to share that with you. So. So the governor coming here and celebrating with us in the advocacy for this law and continuing to call it Bree's Law in the face of arm wrestle over that, I just want to appreciate you. I also want to appreciate the governor for his advocacy around domestic violence and child abuse and child neglect. His increase in funding for domestic violence shelters, which is always a need, and when we don't have enough foundation funds or Indian Health Service obligation funds to meet that need, the governor and the state legislature that emits us have allocated those funds, and I want to appreciate you, and I want to appreciate the governor for doing that. Also watching over our law enforcement and paying attention to strengthening that in our rural communities, because we've got a lot of shelter here in Anchorage. I appreciate our Alaska Police Department and all the advocacy we have from our first responders. In the rural communities, there's still that vacancy, that gap, and I'm appreciative of the governor reaching out to our communities in our rural communities to strengthen that law enforcement. So let me introduce Governor Bill Walker. Was born in Fairbanks. He's been an advocate here. His family is part of Alaska and our Alaska Native pioneers. So please welcome with me Governor Walker to the podium.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I have signed a few bills in my time, but this one was very special. The dancing, the message. Catherine, thank you very much for allowing us to have this bill signing here. There's so much emotion in this room from the background of what is happening today. I cannot thank the legislature enough for the passage of this legislation. I can't begin to thank Butch and Cindy for all the Catherine, you talked about the number of tears shed. It was you couldn't count them. It was just ongoing, and it was very, very impactful on this. You know, I'm blessed to have a picture of Bree in my office in the 17th floor here in Anchorage, and in the governor's house in Juneau. There's a beautiful picture of Bree as well that Butch and Cindy provided to us. So she is never far from our sight and never gone from our hearts as far as her memory, and what you have done is unprecedented, absolutely unprecedented. I don't know of another situation that I can personally point to where the parents have rather than, run from the situation, they ran to the situation. They embraced the opportunity to make sure this does not happen to others again. And that just really, we just cannot thank them enough. And I know that many of you we've witnessed them in hearing after hearing in the legislature. And they just never gave up. They never backed up. They just kept going. So there's not enough accolades that we could give to you for what you have done, not just in the name of Bree, but in the name of safety, in the name of safety for the youth, for the training that will go on. This bill will create a standardized training that is so necessary. Initially it was left up to each school district, and now it'll be a standardized training. And I know that there's a fair amount of resistance for standardized anything because everybody likes to sort of do their own thing their own way, and there's certainly still room for that for each school district. But this will be a certain baseline of training that will be standardized, and I'm very, 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 very pleased about that. The second thing it'll do is it will dedicate February as a month of teen domestic violence awareness, and being aware is very critical. There's some things we don't want to necessarily remind people about, but it's very real, and that's all part of it, is making it part of the dialogue, part of the discussion, being aware of it, and certainly a significant step in reducing it. So that's a second piece it will do, and then it names it Bree's Law. I mean, I would call it Bree's Law anyway. I know many of you would as well. We don't always abide by what it says on the law, but it will be called Bree's Law, and that's important. That's really important that it be called Bree's Law, because it is, and that was important, Butch and Cindy, for all of us that it be named after Bree, because that's what this movement is about. And so I'm very, very pleased to put my signature to this bill. Before we do that, I want to have a few folks say a few words that were involved in making this happen. And again, this may be the most unique bill signing I think that I've been a part of, just because the depth of emotion and that went into this. And so certainly, Representative Drummond, thank you for your help with this bill in the House. If you would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. You're too kind. And I'm also very pleased at the height of this podium, Ms. Gottlieb. I noticed. House Bill 214 will help protect Alaska's teens and young adults from dating violence by formally naming the dating violence awareness and prevention education requirements in the Alaska Safe Children's Act in remembrance of 20-year-old Alaskan Bree Moore, who was murdered in 2014 by her boyfriend in a senseless act of violence. This is going to be hard to say. Bree's story provides a lasting and powerful lesson about the need to educate our young people to recognize and safely respond to dating violence. The story of Bree's life, the inspiring person she was, and the unspeakable tragedy that befell her helped shine a light on the problem of teen dating violence in our state and prompted the inclusion of Bree's Law into the Alaska Safe Children's Act, which was signed into law by Governor Walker in 2015. As a result, young people are already learning how to develop healthy relationships, practice supportive communication skills, recognize the warning signs of an abusive relationship, and to seek help. It is fitting that our state be at the forefront of dating violence awareness and prevention education. Nationwide, Alaska is ranked number 1 in domestic violence and in men killing women. It is the most dangerous state in the United States for women. Alaska ranks in the top 10 states with the worst records of teen dating violence and sexual abuse, with more than 1,000 high school students reporting sexual dating violence 1 or more times in 2017 alone. In addition, over 1,300 high school students experience physical dating violence. Bree's name is already connected by young people and educators all over Alaska to the informal identity of dating violence prevention. By signing House Bill 214 into law today, we make it official. HB214 passed the House and Senate with overwhelming support and a lot of hard work. Our office has heard from students, schools, the prevention community, shelters, and health organizations in support of naming the teen dating violence section of the Alaska Safe Children's Act after Bree Moore. It was an honor to carry this legislation through both bodies, and the House Clerk reports to me that this is the most popular bill of the 30th Alaska Legislature by the number of co-sponsors. Thank you, Governor.
I want to add my thanks to Senator Costello for her help on the Senate as well, and I want to ask Butch Moore if you'd like to say a few words, or Cindy.
I'm going to let Cindy talk first because the hour that they've given me, I don't want to dominate the whole time with just me.
Beautiful, kind, loving, happy, motivated, friend, daughter. That's who Bree was. What happened to her shouldn't have happened. What happens to so many women in our state and in our nation when it comes to domestic violence and dating violence should never happen. But as parents, we were busy with our lives. We were busy raising our kids. We never had a thought about dating violence. We were never worried about Bree in her dating relationships. She was a strong girl. She was popular. She made good decisions. Boy, was I wrong. I'll never forget that night. June 26, 2014, when my husband awakened me about 6 a.m. in the morning. He was pale, he couldn't speak. I didn't know what was going on. He had my robe in his hands and he said, "Cindy, you have to come downstairs right now." And I slipped my robe on, I was half asleep, and I went to the top of the stairs and I looked down, and there was 2 police officers standing in my living room, somber. And I knew something had happened to Bree, but I certainly would have never thought in a million years she would have been killed by her boyfriend. I thought maybe she had gotten into a car accident. But it's real, it's happening, and it's happening way too often in our state. And it's happening to everyone. We can't pinpoint this and say it's happening to a certain race or a certain sex or a certain income level or certain status. It's not. It's happening to everyone. And we all have to be aware of this. And about 4 months after Bree was killed, we were watching the news, and there was a story about how Alaska was #1 in men killing women, and I was horrified. And I didn't know that before. That was the first time I'd ever heard of that. And about a month later, we were watching the news, and I saw a story of a young girl named Linda Bauer who was strangled by her boyfriend in Eagle River. And I realized that something had to be done, that we needed to reach our teens with this message. And so that's what we did.
And some of you know part of the story, but we decided that we never wanted another family to have to suffer what we suffered. And Bree should have never been killed in the first place. There were so many things that could have been done to prevent it. It just didn't make any sense. And Cindy started contacting other parents across the country, and she talked to Lindsay Ann Burke's mother in Rhode Island, who was the first one in the country to start teen dating violence prevention and awareness. And when she talked with her, she asked Lindsay Ann Burke's mother why she had not taken this nationwide. Because Bree possibly wouldn't have been murdered. And she said, "Have you ever had the flu? And I know that you know exactly what this is like because you've lost Bree. You can barely make it to the bathroom. You can barely move. And now you're going to have to fight the fight of your life." And Cindy had no idea what she was talking about. She said, "You have no idea the people that will stand in your way and try and stop you and what a fight it is." Now, who would stop something that's going to save our children's lives? Who would, I mean, it was nuts. I mean, they fought seatbelts when they wanted to put seatbelts in cars, and pretty soon we can't smoke in bars and restaurants because we know it'll kill us, and all these things that have happened. And so when we started out, we wanted to get Bree's law passed with Aaron's law. And it looked like it wasn't going to go 3.5 years ago. And we talked with Governor Walker, and he said, "I'm going to make them stay in the legislature." And I don't care how many times, I think it was twice, 2 extended sessions, he said, "I'm not going to let them out till they pass it." And it passed, the Alaska Safe Children's Act. And as it rolled out in this last fall, 2017, this hasn't really been done across the country. It certainly hasn't been done in Alaska. And so the teachers that this was delivered to, for them to deliver to the students and the parents, it didn't go the way we thought it was going to go. It didn't go as well as it should have gone. And we could hear Bree screaming in the background saying, "It's not working." And so Cindy and I got with the governor's office, we got with the Department of Education, we talked to multiple different agencies, and we actually called the teachers union, NEA, and said, "We need to figure out what is not working, how we can make this work, and what we can do." And we got with the Department of Education. They said, "Well, what you really need to do is we really need to have curricula that's developed specifically for Alaska and for our cultures, differing cultures and outlying areas. And we need to have education for the teachers. We need to have education for parents. We need to have education for students. And we need to make this a more integrated program." And one of the things the task force set out to do with the original Alaska Safe Children's Act, they identified that there is no dating violence education in the country that addresses the lethality, the potential of murder in dating violence. And we realized that without having the budget to put all this money into curricula development, the one thing we could do is put Bree's name on it. And we realized we needed to jump in right away with some kind of campaign. We talked with the governor, Governor Bill Walker, and we came up with a plan. We said, the teachers maybe don't want to talk to the kids maybe don't want to talk to their parents or the teachers, and what we need is an 800 number and a way for the teachers to direct the kids to where they can get the help. So Cindy and I printed 3,500 posters and sent them to every high school and middle school throughout the state of Alaska. And the governor proclaimed February as Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, as February. And I'm so happy to see that the legislature followed his lead and made it permanent in Alaska. So with that campaign, that helped to start to bridge the gap. But we realized there was still much more that needed to be done. And I think it was in June of 2017, and I talked to a lady at the Department of Education, and I said, boy, I sure see a lot of ads for life vests. And this is crazy, because we have this huge campaign for wearing your life vest. And, you know, we have men killing women at double or 2.5 times the national average. I can't believe this is nuts. And she said, well, that was my campaign, and I was responsible for that. And I said, oh, well, how's it working? She says, we've cut drownings in half. And I said, can you help us? And she did. And so there's a lot of people that came together. Southcentral Foundation, what great champions with their Family Wellness Warriors Initiative. It's just, they have done so much. What great heroes for Southcentral. So the bill passed, and you know this, I've said this and people like to correct me, but this is not about Bree. This is not about Bree. This is about over 50% of all women over the age of 18 in Alaska have been physically or sexually assaulted. This is about getting those numbers down. This is about fixing the problems and saying it's not okay. And when the governor signed the proclamation in February, we learned in the proclamation, we started this in 2015. And the numbers in 2017 on teen dating violence reported through the Alaska Risk Behavioral Survey, they came nearly in half in 2 years. This is working. And it's not Cindy and I, it's not Bree, it's everybody here in this room. It's all of you that helped pass this bill, that have helped create awareness. And I want to thank everybody here. And I want to thank our governor and our legislature for passing this legislation and putting Bree's name and her face on it. And it will continue to save lives, not just in Alaska, but potentially across the nation. Thank you so much.
Kaya would like to say a few words. Kaya Etheridge.
Hi, I'm Kaya Etheridge. So myself and a few others met the Moores at a student advisory board meeting, in November. And after hearing their story, we were just so inspired by how they not only lost their daughter, but they started fighting for teen violence education in Alaska. And we just think it's so cool how this education is now available for us as students. And we see these posters all over our school now, all over Alaska. So also I have a fellow student, Kevin, coming up, and he's gonna say a few words also.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lubin. Kaya and I are both a part of the SAB, the Student Advisory Board. And so we just wanted to come out here and explain how we became a part of the efforts to make Bree's Law into an actual law. And so they came to a SAB meeting about December of last year, and they showed us a poster. And they said, as students, what is your opinion? What do you think that we could do better? What do you think this is a good poster? How do you feel? And it was a simple thing. They just showed us a poster, and they showed us what they were trying to do, and we gave them our opinion. The cool thing about what it was that instead of not allowing students to be a part of the decision, they came to the students, they came to us, and they asked us, how will this impact you? What do you want to see in your schools? Do you want our help? And we said yes. We asked them to help, and we asked them, what can we do to help you? Because this effort, what they've done it's amazing. They took a tragedy and they made the tragedy into something amazing, and now they're helping tons of teens around the state, and it's it's amazing to see. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Well, with that, it's time to sign the legislation. I'd like members of the legislature to please join me for the signing, if you would. And also, obviously, Butch and Cindy, if you could be here as well. And I'd like to have the youngest people possible as well. So if that young lady right there could join us as well, that would be awesome. So, members of the legislature, thank you very much for being here and being part of it today and making this happen. Thank you.